leave, again, without a pass. And basically the only way you could get a pass is if you had a job and your white boss came and got you out of the internment camp, but you had to return after you left work.
Now, did they put any white folks in these camps?
If I could finish that part of the internment camp. Interestingly enough, after all that was done, finally when African Americans sought redress through the court system, it was determined that the statute of limitations had passed and that they were not entitled to be compensated. However, we do know that the Japanese were compensated for being wrongfully interned. Remember, these two were United States citizens.
So they didn't put white folks in the camps. They didn't try to quote unquote protect them by putting them in the camps. They just put the black folks in the camps. Is that correct?
As a matter of fact, the court said that that the African Americans were the cause of the violence, and so they were basically the ones that were punished. No, you did not have any whites actually punished, and when you consider that, according to some accounts, more than 300 African Americans were slaughtered in that 24-hour period, and many of them dumped into mass graves. As a matter of fact, there's a known gravesite right at the corner of 11th and Peoria that still exists today. But again, there's no true number that we can determine, but there are estimates as high as 300 that were literally slaughtered, but not one white was prosecuted.
So So let me see if I can clearly see the picture here. Somebody says that there was an alleged assault of a black man against a white woman, and in connection with this assault, alleged assault, there was the destruction of hundreds of homes and businesses in the black community. People of color were put into internment camps and only allowed out if they worked for a white man who signed them out of the camp.
That is correct.
So the people in the camps were not compensated for what they went through, and no whites were prosecuted for their role in the creation of this slaughter, this massacre. Am I correct on that?
You are correct. And if you will allow me just to clearly help you understand that eventful night when it began, Dick Rowland was arrested. He was arrested, and he was taken to the Tulsa City Jail. Well, you have to remember the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, were very prevalent here in the city of Tulsa as well as the state of Oklahoma during this time period. Realizing that Dick Rowland probably would face the same fate that many African Americans faced when in the judicial system during that point, several black men went to the jail in an effort to protect him from a vigilante mob, white mob that had already gathered on the steps of the jail, seeking to have Dick Rowland brought out so they could lynch him. And a white man asked a black man who was armed, "Nigga, what are you going to do with that rifle?" And the black man responded, "I'll use it if I have to." A scuffle ensued, and a shot was fired. That's how the riot really got started. And from that point, whites then went into the Greenwood area, Black Wall Street, began looting, burning homes. They fired machine guns from Standpipe Hill, which was a very high point above the Greenwood area. And there's also allegations that the National Guard actually flew a plane over and dropped a bomb. Now, that has not been totally substantiated, but several eyewitnesses have stated that they saw a plane fly over the area and drop a bomb on the Greenwood area during this whole melee.
So what would be the rationale for anybody to drop a bomb? I mean, for the federal government to come in and drop a bomb on Greenwood? What do you think is what rationale have people discussed as potential reasoning for this?
Total annihilation of the Greenwood area. Total annihilation of the Greenwood area.
Wow. Well, you know, I saw the pictures and I've seen them. You know, I've seen them before I got here, but being in the culture center really allowed me to connect with this a legacy of this once great area, and I saw, anybody who looks at the images will see that the area is just flattened. It looks like nothing's left standing. So I want to ask you, years later, as a resident of this area, do you think that people are as well educated on exactly what happened at that time as they should be, white and black folks? What is your take on that?
No, I don't. I still don't think here in the city of Tulsa that people are totally educated not only on what happened, but the repercussions. When you look at Tulsa today, which is still basically a city divided, when you look at the economic growth of South Tulsa compared to the basic stagnation in North Tulsa, you can still see the impact of the devastation of this 1921 rape holocaust. When you look at the dry zones in terms of no grocery stores, when you see that there's no nice restaurants in the North Tulsa community, you can still see the economic impact of the 1921 rape holocaust. I mean, for instance, let's go back. We even think about the Gurney Hotel. In 1921, suffered $65,000 in losses and right. Can you imagine if that hotel still existed today, the economic impact it could be having on that community? And it's not there anymore. And that's one thing that I would challenge even students at Booker T. Washington High School. We have a great class as part of our International Baccalaureate diploma program at Booker T. Washington. And one of the areas that you can study is economics. And I have challenged those students to actually do a study to look at the economic impact of the 1921 rape holocaust on the city of Tulsa. Where would those businesses be but for 1921? When you start talking about generational wealth, many families lost everything they had and never regained it. So we have no generational wealth to pass down as a legacy because of the 1921 rape holocaust. So when you think about that devastation that night, it's not one isolated incident that happened years ago that we should simply forget about, because the repercussions from that night still exist today.
Well, I am extremely grateful, Dr. Marshall, that you were willing to take the time to explain this to the public. The minute that I heard you explain the way you explained it, a time that a couple of other guys told me that I needed to talk to you, and the minute I heard you explain it, I just knew that I needed to share this story, to have this story shared with as many people as possible. And I hope that people who are listening will understand that we need to rewrite history. We need to reframe the way we think about history. We need to reconsider those taboo questions, those questions that we were raised to believe that we could not ask. Like, for example, was integration good for black people? When we go see this Jackie Robinson movie, should we celebrate integration, or should we see that as part of the key to our demise? It doesn't mean that segregation is necessarily the answer, but perhaps we need to renegotiate our integration and achieve some degree of self-sufficiency, especially when you look around and you see the epidemics of mass incarceration. You see black unemployment that will never go down. It won't go down very much. It will always be twice as high as whites until we own our own businesses. You see what's happening with our educational system, where a huge chunk of our kids are graduating from high school and can't even read. So we have to really think about where we want to go forward as a people. And I argue that where we've gone to this point should have nothing to do with where we move forward from here, because if we continue to do the same thing and use the same strategies, we will get the same results. So, Dr. Marshall, thank you very much for taking the time to explain this to us. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you later on today.
Yes, absolutely, my brother. And for those of you who are listening, thank you for checking us out at yourblackworld.net. And until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.